I'm sure you've been stressed before. We all have. We're human. This episode is all about how I move through life with stress and how you can too. Hello, my beautiful, gorgeous dance baby, and welcome to another episode of More Than Dance. Today, we are talking all about stress and your indicators of stress and how you move through life with stress. Because just like with fear and just like with discomfort, sometimes the biggest and greatest things happen with those things. They never go away. And if you do want a refresher on fear or discomfort, episode 28 and 29. And if you want a refresher on stepping out of your comfort zone, episode 16. And right now we're talking about stress. So stress is one of the inevitable things that are going to happen. You are going to experience stress. If you're doing anything worthwhile, there's going to be stress that comes with it. And one of the biggest things that you might be doing very soon or already in your schedule that has some stress to it is dance. And that can be learning dance in a class, that could be learning a combo that you're going to perform, that could be getting ready for a performance, that could be even just cleaning a routine, that could be getting costumes ready. Dance has stress in it. And yes, it can also be a stress-less place where you're going there to stress less about your life because we know that dance allows us to escape, which thank God. I'm so glad that dance is in my life because there's been so many moments where I've had like a crazy day and then I've stepped into the dance studio and it all disappears. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's like an alternate reality and it's amazing. So today we're talking about stress because I had an aha moment. So first, before we talk about the aha moment, I want you to think for a second about a time that you've been stressed. Specifically, a time that you've been stressed. Not like, oh, when I do this, I'm stressed. Like, no, this day, this season, for this reason. Like, get very specific about it. And I'm going to tell you about one of mine. And then I want you to think, what happened when you were stressed? Did you notice that you had short conversations with people? Did any of the things that I'm about to share with you that happened to me happen to you? So stay tuned on that. What was your day-to-day like? And just think about that for a second. Reflect on that for a second. I know we've all been stressed before. So I'm going to tell you about a time that I was so stressed and I actually didn't even know that I was stressed until later. If you know anything about me, you know that I've endured 4 knee surgeries. I have a very rare joint condition called synovial chondromatosis where tumors grow in my joint lining. It's been, an ongoing thing since 2013 when I lost the ability to walk and I was undiagnosed for a year and a half and had 8 different doctors and 4 MRIs and finally came to the solution. It's a saga. It's something in my life that has been very prominent that I still deal with on a daily basis. So the first surgery happened great. I was very hopeful. It has a very high recurrence rate. And it's usually because they can't get all of the tumor because it's so microscopic. So it grows back. So I'm getting ready for my second surgery. I'm like leading up to it. And I have someone in my life at the time who is very like anti-surgery, very like, do not do surgery that isn't mandatory. And at that point, because I had already gone through the first surgery, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this second surgery. So there was some questioning that came to mind. And I didn't realize I ended up wearing these questions and these what ifs and I don't knows. And instead of being like present in my brain, like, oh, wow, Chrissy, you are stressed or you are nervous or you are anxious about this second surgery or like, what if this happens? It wasn't coming out like that. That would have been easy. That would have been like, Chrissy, you're worried. Like, talk to someone about this. It didn't come out like that. What it came out like was hives. I started getting hives. And I'm not talking like, oh, change your sheets hives. I'm talking like my whole entire body was a hive. Like it was kind of scary. Every morning I would wake up with a brand new hive. And there's a photo where like I have a hive on my lip and it looks like I had lip filler. And it is but you can see like my face is contorted because of the hive. You won't even be able to recognize me. I had hives on my neck. I had hives on my legs. It ended up being like chronic hives. So it wasn't like just like, oh, you're allergic to this. It's like, no, the only reason why you have this is because you're stressed. So what are you stressed about? And it's funny because the surgery happened, right? I already have the hives, right? I'm going into surgery with hives. So now after the surgery, I'm still getting hives. They're showing up every day. Everyone thinks it's a reaction to the anesthesia. Everyone thinks, oh, the medicine. Oh, did you check this? Did you talk to your doctor? You just had surgery, talk to him. But I'm like, no. Like this was an existing issue prior to the surgery. So it kind of has nothing to do with the surgery, but everything to do with the surgery. And it was very frustrating, as you can imagine. And for months it went on. And that's what happens with hives. So for anyone out there, like some hive awareness, if you have hives, basically your histamines aren't doing their job. And there's a bunch of different histamine blockers. So that's what we call antihistamines. Antihistamines. Hey, you got an antihistamine? Antihistamines. And there's different ones that do different things. In fact, there's Zantac, which I'm not a doctor, but that one is advertised as helping with like acid reflux, but it's also an antihistamine. So it wasn't until I found this amazing doctor. As always, I always find the best doctors in Boston through referral, through like a long-winded search of someone please help me. And actually I have visions of myself that I can play back in my head, standing outside of the office in the parking lot, calling their office, telling them like, I'm here for my appointment. Where do I go? Like crying, like, just you get to a point of desperation sometimes with the healthcare industry, and you just have to kind of let everything out there and something will happen. And I'm a big like healthcare advocate and like doctor advocate, and like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So being able to articulate and say stuff like and push, and like even though you don't feel like you should push, do it, because you're going to get that appointment, and that appointment is going to alleviate you from the stress that you're having. So I remember she was like, you're going to have these 3. She told me to go on 3 different like over-the-counter antihistamines, and I ended up taking those, and it was like crazy. Like it actually, like, so imagine 8 to 12 months. I know it was like just about a year when I met her, and I meet her, and I'm noticing that like the hives aren't as bad. They're still there. I remember one time being on the boat with Josh. Oh my God, we were going to Block Island, and I was like the person that went on Botched. Do you watch that show? It's like crazy. Like it looked like I had a crazy like facelift filler situation. Like my lips were like this because I had hives. My eye had a hive on them, so it was like this. My cheeks, like my whole face was just, and I remember being like on the boat and like putting my hat down. Then I got seasick. Oh my God, crazy. So we experience stress, right? And we know don't experience stress. Like we know, like do what you can to stress less and anti-stress and all of these things that sound easy. It really does. It seems like, oh, okay, like all I have to do is just like lay on the floor and like breathe. Like, okay, like I can do that. Well, we get to be aware of our own stressors, and as you're learning and you're becoming an adult, you might not know what those stressors are. Like I didn't realize how stressed I was about that surgery to cause myself to have these crazy hives. It was like horrible because every day it was a brand new hive, and it was something to deal with. And it was like, and they hurt and they itched and like they felt full, and it was very painful, and it lasted longer than a year. It really did. And then sometimes they'd come back like after a month, and it was a lot. And then there've been other situations kind of circling around surgery where stress has come in and it's had a reaction on my physical body. Like, yeah, my mental body is like feeling this kind of, but my physical body shows it. So I had this like epiphany because I'm heading into a stressful season right now. We're getting into wedding season, and there are a lot of moving parts, things that weren't expected that are happening. And so I'm getting into what I would call a stressful season. And I would call it like, oh, this is stressful. This is overwhelming. And I've been watching myself, and like, I don't know if you do this, but I like observe myself as if I'm watching her. Like, I'm like, oh, what are you doing there? Like, you went and you did that. And it's part of my reflection. And I reflect in different ways, and that's one of them. So I'm like watching myself needing like an hour and a half recovery in the middle of the day. If you don't know, my day is split. So I work in the morning and then I work at night. And so my like off time is kind of like in the middle of the day. And also it's not, because Josh and I, we work so much that all day is like work, but I've worked really hard to have little pockets of my day which feel like they're not work hours, or maybe I just like get a chance to like shift. So like doing the podcast, like, while yes, this is part of my work now, it's a very different thought process than some of the other stuff that I do. So it's like, yes, I am working, but I'm also breaking from something else. So my day is structured like that now, which has taken time to do. And I had this thought, and I was like going into my room, which, if you know, maybe you do this too. My room is like the sacred spot where I live. Nothing work related goes in there unless it does. That's where the boundary is. But sometimes, it's porous. Sometimes that room is darker and it's cooler, and it's just like a very like nice retreat area to be. So I noticed myself going over there and just like laying and not really doing much, not really like watching things, but just kind of like laying. And I said to myself like a few times, like, why are you doing this? Why are you being like lazy? I said that word to my inner self. I was like, why are you not, you have so many things to do. Like, what are you doing in here? Like, just like that head on the shoulder. That's like kind of your righteous head. That's like, we don't do this at this time. We don't rest. And I think you know this just as much as I do, that resting is one of those things that's like not congratulated as much as I worked so hard. Oh my God, you're such a hard worker. Oh my God, I rested so hard. Good for you. I think now it is. It's like, oh, good. I'm so glad you were able to get that rest. So I'm saying to myself, like, you did this yesterday, or you did this the day before. Like, you keep coming in here in the middle of the day to just like retreat. And the epiphany happened yesterday where I was like, oh, well, duh. It's no wonder. My self has learned so much about stress and how my personal body reacts to stress that it would make sense that I would be avoiding getting to the level of stress that would cause my body to have a reaction. So I had this moment with myself, like, look at you being so kind of hard on yourself and like kind of mean in a way, thinking that you were doing this like, and you weren't doing your work, or you were like, I don't know, cheating yourself out of like work hours. Because that's something that I think about a lot, is like, at any point I could be working more. That's the story that I tell myself. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, it is so good that like my higher self, or like my subconscious self, my divine self, whatever one we want to call it, or whoever wants to take credit for it, she knew to like lay down and give herself that hour and a half, that 45 minutes, whatever it was, every day was different, to just lay and do nothing. And I know that that is what is like managing my stress level right now, is knowing that like that's become my retreat area, and that has become like my retreat time. And it's like not like a designated time. It's not like it's this time, because I don't move that way through my life. I very much allow myself to move through life organically. Like, so, I feel really like it's time to get some stuff done. And like, I feel excited to do that work. And it's a fun balance because it balances with discipline. So that's another episode. We've already done a couple episodes on discipline. And I had this moment later when I was like thinking about it some more. I was like, wow, go you for allowing yourself to have that moment of rest and to not interrupt yourself from it. And to not let the other head say like, do work, like you're better than that. You don't need rest, keep going. Because that savings of time, let's just say it was an hour a week, let's say 5 hours. That 5 hours of like maybe working myself too hard could have landed me in 8 months of dealing with a hive reaction or other ones, because I've had other ones. So I really had this nice, beautiful reframe. And that's why I wanted to share this with you, because we are always trying to do our best. I think that's just like part of it. We're doing our best with what we know. And I think we have moments where we like push really hard. And sometimes we push in the direction that we think is the best, pushing myself in that direction. Like it would feel like that was the best. And also sometimes what's best is like what our natural body wants to do. So to be able to be connected to both of those bodies, like the body that's like discipline, this is what we do, this is how you get it done, you have to do this many posts and like that structure mixed with I'm needing this. Organically, my body needs to breathe. When you fill up this cup, this organic cup, you actually get to play in this world a little bit more strategically with less time wasted. And the reason why I know that is because anytime I play in this world, which is like resting or taking care of myself, I am giving myself that like mental nap so that I can come alive with my ideas, my creativity, my thoughts. And I'm excited about everything in this world, which is discipline and structure and get this done and parameters and numbers and everything there, everything feminine and everything masculine and alpha. So it's really fun to play with those dualities because we are those dualities all the time. There's never a day where you're not both. You're just more of one. When I'm in the work that is like, get this done and do this, I'm in my alpha energy and I'm like getting all that stuff done. It's like the logical part of your brain. And when I'm in that like nurture, caretaker, organically led, creative, this theme, this idea, what about this dance move? I get to play in my feminine energy. And sometimes we are really natural in one energy. Some of our efficiency throughout the day is getting into the mode that we can be in. So for instance, if I'm spending my whole day in masculine energy, let's put an equation to it because I think that's going to make sense. Let's say it takes, oh my God, I want to like come up with like a measuring tool. It would be like a measurement of some type of meter like joules or decibels or knots or ATPs. And it would be, okay, for me to go from my masculine energy into my feminine energy, it takes me 29 volts, 29 something of energy to get into that zone. Okay, that's that day. And maybe that's average. But in a stressful time, it might take me 100 knots or 100 decibels. We know it's not decibels. 100 joules of energy, 100 watts of energy to get me into that zone. And that's kind of like when I know that I'm stressed. So that's been kind of like a indicator. At least now I know that that was stress, but it was really like telling me to go rest. That's like all I had. That's all the information that I knew at the time was like, you got to lay down. And it's because I was switching into that zone and it was taking all of my energy so I could be the creative person that I am. And that was like almost in a way like my masculine and my feminine zones conflicting each other. And this happens. I talk about this as like my warning sign to Josh is like, I say like my threshold's really low. And that kind of signals him to say like less to me and less frequent. Just kind of like, it's like the meme of the person going back into the bush. It's like, okay. And to be able to communicate that, I mean, what an amazing thing, because now he can maybe move into more of his feminine energy and be more nurturing. He can come to me and be like, okay, like I made you food. Here's your water, versus like, what's going on? Tell me everything. Like, let's solve problems. Let's solve problems. And because it's not usually that it's a problem, it's just usually that it's an overload. And that's what stress is. Again, I'm not a clinical psychologist. And I have spent a lot of time like dissecting inner workings of my life and people and just trying to be analytical to know myself more and to know the people that I teach more and the people just like you that are watching this or listening to this right now. So when I had this like revelation, I was like, oh my God, look at my like subconscious self taking care of my future self. And I had to have a moment because you know I love celebration and we don't do it enough. There's a few episodes where we talk about celebration, and I'm not thinking of the one that I'm wanting to shout out, but there is episode 99, episode 100, those kind of talk about celebration, but I'm not sure which one is the one that I'm trying to reference right now. So what I did was I had this moment of celebration where I got to say to myself like, wow, you made progress on something, you did something that's going to help you in these next upcoming months, because now I'm dealing with the stress right now and I'm not adding more worry by doing more because I think I should do more. Episode 48, if you want to, that's one of my favorite episodes. And I was able to relax in those thoughts and put them off, put them to the side, and understand that my higher self was making those decisions for me and knew exactly. It was really a lot of trust, really, like just being able to, okay, I'm going to lay here for this amount of time and trust that that would lead to a great outcome for me. Now that I've had time to like think about that and reflect, like I was like, why do you keep going over there like in the middle of the day for like an hour to just do that? Because that's not usually what I do. And then it dawned on me and everything started to make sense. Like, oh, I'm really preventing a stress reaction. Like, go me. So now I can like share this with you because I know that life always happens and things always come up. Like there's no pause ever, even when you have the most craziest times, the most tragic times, the busiest times, there's no pause button that says pause. Like, go ahead and work on that. We don't get that. What we do get to do, though, is make the pause happen for ourselves. And we can create that within little windows of time. We can create that with spending certain moments with people. And we can create that by utilizing dance as a tool. And dance is my tool for life. Like it's the thing that keeps me the most sane. If Josh and I are on a vacation and I'm acting up and I'm like, la, 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 he's like, what's going on? Like you have so much energy. Like what? Oh, you didn't dance today. And it always boils down to that. Like, oh, you didn't dance today. It's like, I need that. It's kind of like how I would imagine like plants need water. They just need water. It's like, we need food. Yeah, I need to dance. And so for you, as you're putting dance in your schedule and you're building out what it's like to be a dancer, dance comes along for the ride with us. And it might feel like you would pause dance so that you can do other things. And in my analogy, that would have led me to the hives, the stress reaction. And so when I've learned to do the things that might feel a little out of the ordinary, laying down in the middle of the day for me, that's pretty out of the ordinary. And it's uncomfortable to think about it because it's like, I don't do that. So it might be uncomfortable for you to think like, I have this, and this going on. Why would I put dance at the forefront of my schedule? It doesn't actually make sense. And when you dance and you get to experience all that dance brings you, you get to then alleviate stress and show up to this, and this, your laundry list of things to do in a better, more elevated, more heightened way, so that you can probably be more efficient when you're doing it, so that you can be more excited while you're doing it, and so that you can be less resentful. And I know that when we're adding that at first, it becomes like it's a different type of pressure. It's like, oh, I have to make time for that on top of everything that I'm making time for. Well, one, let's shift to I get to put dance into my life. And that's what's going to help me stay sane through this season of work, or this season of transition, or this season of things feeling like it's one giant detour. Episode 32 and 33, great episodes on interruptions and what to do. And you get to understand a different part of you that can handle doing both things. And like, it's the backwards way of it working. So it's like a reverse engineer, if you will, of in the past, like I would have done this, and this in that order. If I had more time, then I would put dance in it. And instead, it's schedule dance first, and then everything else will follow suit. Parkinson's law, I'm sure you've heard of it. It says that whatever time you have, you're using that allotment of time to do whatever it is that you're doing. So if you have an hour, Parkinson's law says you have an hour, so you're going to use an hour. So if you schedule dance for even just 45 minutes, then you might be able to do what would take you an hour thoughtfully, maybe 15 minutes. And you're still at an hour, and you got to dance, and you got to do what you needed to do. Or maybe it's a different scale of time, but you can use that as an example. So you'll find that when you do this, not only are you coming to those priorities in a different light, but you're more excited and more familiar with taking the time for dance. Just like I was getting familiar, like, oh, you're going to go in there again? You're going to go rest? Like, okay. So I became more familiar with like, that was what I was doing this week to keep my sanity. The other thing that I did want to bring up, because like stress is, yes, something that you can measure. Like you can have stress tests and it can be attached to your heart and everything. And sometimes it's this arbitrary thing that we know exists, and we are constantly chasing the control of it. And the preventative measures that we get to take can actually be more helpful than the measures that you take after the stress has happened. So in other words, while I was having the hives, there was nothing that I could have done to really stress less at that moment, because the damage was already done. The only thing I could do at that point was focus on the healing. However, had I been more aware and known that I was getting stressed subconsciously, I could have done different measures. Like, okay, just as much as you're talking to this person who's saying no surgery, talk to equally as many people who are saying like, no, with your condition, surgery is very important. Because that person was making me feel like I was making the wrong decision, which you know me in decisions, like, ooh, I don't want to make the wrong one. So if I was equally talking to people who are very like pro-surgery with your condition, that might have alleviated some of my stress. And I might not have ended up with months and months and months of hives. I feel like it was like a year and a half. I mean, I'll have to go back to the data. No, it was like longer than that, because that was in 2016. And Josh, I met you in 2019 and I was still getting hives. That was 4 years of hives. That's crazy. That's crazy. So I think it's funny sometimes how the brain can trick you. Again, the brain's always tricking you to remember things. Like it almost blocks out some of the pain so that you like don't remember it, as awful as it was. Oh my God. Crazy. I did want to mention though, going back to that, when you go to dance, I know that dance can sometimes be the culprit, and dance is what's causing you the stress. So let's say like everything in life is like going like groovy, and then you get to dance and that's where your stress comes. And it's like, I'm telling you right now, like go to dance to alleviate your stress. And you're like, I am at dance and like that is what's causing my stress. Okay, now we get to play in that world, because when you're dancing and you're feeling stress, there is an unwritten pressure, unwritten perfectionism that you're putting into the system. It's like a 3D printer, and you're like, okay, it must be this, and this. And then all of a sudden it's like coming up short, and you're like, you got to change the parameters. Like you got to change the numbers, like so that it like can print out. You're going in with dance with such and such expectation, and you're going in with, I must get all of the steps in it. Well, you get to change those. You can change the codes and go in with a little bit less of that pressure and alleviate that stress, so that dance can be your escape, and dance can feel like what it does feel for me, which is bliss, ease, happiness, joy, relief, release, anti-stress, everything wonderful, euphoria, I think I called it the other day. It feels like a golden retriever puppy frolicking with like a rainbow and like sunshine and like also a sunset and like maybe a little rain that comes after. It just feels, and a chocolate chip cookie, in a sandwich. It feels amazing. So I want you to be able to experience that. So using some of the tactics that we go through all the time in this podcast, you can create your stress less dance space. And it's not necessarily a space like a box of four walls and a floor and a mirror. It's a stressless dance space here mentally that you're creating for yourself, that you're reminding yourself, because we need reminders. We definitely need reminders. We need the reminders that help us to say, oh yeah, that's right. The old me wanted that. The old me needed perfection. Like I've worked through that now. I don't need to be here to be perfect. I need to be here to experience joy. So stress, it's a big one. I know, and it's a constant work and it's a constant thing. And yeah, maybe I got a hold of it this time in advance. Maybe I'm speaking too soon. I'm just kidding. But in that way, it's always different. Nothing's ever the exact same. And we get to know that and get ready for it and be able to adjust as we need to. So take your rest, find a sanctuary area for you, just you in your home, that you can make your relaxed space, that you can rejuvenate and feel like you're able to like transfer your energies to where they need to be to do all the priorities that you have on your list of to do, and make time for dance and work on having that space be your most magical space so that you know when you go there, all you have to do is show up and all the magic will happen, because that's what happens for me. All I do is just show up and I leave and I'm like, wow, magic just happened. So cool. And I want that for you. And if this was helpful for you, it would mean the absolute world to me if you shared this with anyone. Like put it on your story, because stress is something that unifies all of us. You don't have to be a dancer to get something out of listening to what you just listened to. So thank you so much. And I'll see you on the dance floor.